So let's, good morning, everybody. Good morning, members of the public. We're doing our final edits on H-159. We made decisions yesterday. Hopefully the draft we have in front of us with some tweaks will reflect those decisions. Might as well start with what David and I were just talking about, which is the VITA program, which is
I feel like there was some drafts last night where we heard, this isn't the way this is.
there's a new draft.
Yes, there's a new draft that should be assigned your desk.
Oh,
That just got.
Right, 6.1.
We got a draft yesterday afternoon. I went through it, found a few inconsistencies, I think, from what the committee decided, and phoned them in, and now this is the new draft.
Other than guardrails, your other favorite word is tweaks.
Win-win.
You got to start incorporating triple bottom line.
Yeah. The bottom line is, I hate it when people say, there's some, that's another subject.
What, let's see, let me try and find this for you. It's on page 5. And so what we talked about yesterday was that we wanted to retain the maximum grants as they had been in the existing program, because there's never been any complaints about that, yet what came back from VITA had substantially increased the maximum grant. So
page 5.
Page 15.
Oh,
So the existing program has $150,000 for 3 months at fixed cost as the maximum grant. And so I told the drafters to put that in, and David made some other changes, which I think went a little bit further than we had wanted. And if you look at, just so you know what I've asked them to do now, on line 17, it says the loan recipient may use loan proceeds to pay for eligible fixed costs, but not use the proceeds for capital expenditures. It used to say, I think, operating cost, eligible operating costs. The change to fixed cost in D on maximum was not necessarily to influence how the proceeds may be used, just cap the amount of the proceeds. So we're going to change that to fixed or operating costs or something like that. And similarly on line E, on the next page, exact same issue for loan forgiveness. Line 5 on page 16. So fixed costs do limit the amount you can get, but in terms of loan forgiveness, you don't have to spend that money on fixed costs. You can spend it on fixed costs or operating costs.
So,
That's the change of the concept.
or operating. Yeah, good catch.
David, what other sections did you change?
Change the marketing. Oh, there's the whole on page 39. There's all the new language on Vermont film and media industry. I don't know if you had a chance to read through that. If you were good with that, or what changes there?
Could you quickly walk us through it? Because
Absolutely.
This is the first time I've seen this language. I'm going to run it.
So again, so David Hall, Legislative Council, you're on draft. You should be on draft 6.1 of page 159, and I'm on page 39.
Yeah, got it.
Section 12, the Vermont Film and Media Industry Task Force, which is created. It has 2 members of the House appointed by the Speaker, 2 members of the Senate appointed by the committee and committees, Secretary of Commerce or designee, and then the last is a member appointed by the Vermont Arts Council shall serve as chair and shall convene meetings of the task force. Does that sound right?
Great, perfect.
On page 40, task force would have legal from legislative council, fiscal from joint fiscal, members entitled to the per diem specified statute for not more than 4 meetings. Report date of January next year. Consult relevant stakeholders in the industry. Submit it to committee's jurisdiction. Report line 10 here reviews the history of state efforts to cultivate the film and media industry in Vermont, and what financial and other support the state may provide in the future to revitalize the industry following the 19 pandemic and to invigorate the industry, including successes and failures of past state involvement, opportunities to invigorate industry, attract filmmakers, media entrepreneurs, promote Vermont, attract a destination for tourism, business development. 3, differentiate and compete with other jurisdictions that also seek to cultivate more expansive industry. 4, survey those who currently work with the business when they come here. 5, opportunities for employing federal COVID relief to revive the industry and cost benefit of establishing new state financial administrative or other supports for the industry.
Well done. Thank you for incorporating.
You know, I think well done. I just have a question regarding line 20 on page 40. Who works with film and media businesses when they come to Vermont?
I think tourism at the moment
Uh,
and economic development. You'd have to ask Joan, but I'm pretty
So-
sure, or the Arts
work with
Council.
Film and media, but in terms of, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit nebulous, and I had always interpreted it to mean
We'll find
who's
out.
the contact now, you know, whether it's within the government or not, who's the liaison to these businesses when they do want to work in Vermont? Who do they reach out to? So that's what I thought it meant, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that's what it should mean. I don't know what you want it to mean. I can change it.
At the moment, Randy, I think that's part of the problem. There is no go-to person.
There's no go-to person.
So that's what we're trying to
Way, yeah, but
do.
in a way, what you're also asking is, what agencies of state government interact with the film industry? And
Right,
you're
I think that's
talking about government, you know,
I think that's what we're
interact
gonna
with the
find out
film
in the task force.
industry and the extent. and
Right, but I-
the understanding of what they currently do.
right. But I think that's what this task force is.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't understand it as
Yeah.
a written.
I can change it. If I hear you, then you are asking for basically the public sector or private sector contacts who are the people with whom they.
Well, yeah, that it affects the extent of government involvement, government involvement in working with and providing assistance to
Yeah, what's the
the film
current?
industry. Now, what's the current situation,
What's
is
the
really what
current?
you're
And
asking.
that's what I think we're trying to identify.
Okay, gotcha.
Who's got your hand on it?
Yeah, I'm happy to just tweak that. I have other changes to make, so.
That's fine.
Thanks, as long as that, yeah.
Opportunities for employee federal coverage to provide the industry with cost benefit analysis, establishing new state financial, administrative, and other supports.
So I just thank you guys for working this out. I'll just make my final pitch in the category of I told you so, but if this starts getting controversial, I think part of the reason will be because the task force is a little too large, and I just ask if you guys would consider one legislator from each side. It may go through smoother that way.
I think I would be fine with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what we suggested originally.
Okay, I think it may sail through easier. It doesn't look like a big group.
Yeah.
Okay, so to make that change to that,
Got it.
does that affect the money at all? No, because you have that tied into a.
Yeah.
Statutory, per diem section.
So, yeah, I mean, the
Richie, legislators by this high per diem that we get for doing this.
Right, I know.
it is capped at 4 meetings, and I typically, before the pandemic at least, there was just kind of a running tally of what the amount of per diems was kind of need to be. And we had sort of moved away from appropriating money specifically for particular task force or studies, and instead JFO had sort of a running budget going for what they anticipated obsession costs to be, and they kept
Well,
it.
I'm not so worried about what the cost is, but is there a need, the way we've appropriated it, in some of these sections, where in the past you used to give a dollar amount, now it refers to another section of law that says they shall be reimbursed per that statute.
Yeah, it's always a question of sort of where does that money come from? The joke is that Steve Klein would just go shake the couch cushions.
I missed the joke.
Steve Klein would go and shake the couch cushions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
She
always
changed
found
it.
that there was lots of change in the couch.
So for me, page 62, appropriations. You know, the 62 and the 63, there's no foolproof way of future appropriations, right?
Right, we can't tie the hands of future legislators.
I mean, you can say it, there's nothing to say they won't take the money back, but what I try to do is say that they would expend that money over 2 years. I can go another step and say,
What line are you on?
I'm at the bottom of page 62, in the very last line. So, FY 23 appropriations, which the department shall expend over 2 years. Now, that does not say they have to divide it evenly between 2 years, so that's another step you could take if you want to.
That's fine. I mean, they
Bill,
testified that this amount will last them 2 years.
Okay.
We know that they're not coming back next year for more money.
So I updated those amounts on the top of 63, and then also
updated cap, yeah, cap,
line 4.
Yeah.
For the capital investment program. And then my last piece is on page 64. So I changed that, as you indicated, Mr. Chair, in your email. So it's an authorization that from the amounts appropriated to the agency, that for the programs that promote downtown development, they may use not more than $485,000 to these nonprofits that sponsor downtown designation. And then these are the actual activities that I understood they do. So
Where'd you get this language
from there.
from? Statute or?
no, this had come from a draft amendment that I had prepared for Senator Clarkson.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, because that wasn't in there before.
Some of what we send you is useful in the long run.
It's
Most of what
it's a
we,
great time saver.
well, they had drafted.
So that I think is it for me. And I know I've got a smattering of some small changes to make.
Yep, and we're gonna vote this out in half an hour.
You guys are gonna have Damian and Tucker also, or?
Yeah, we'll have Tucker, we'll get Tucker for 5 minutes to go through the sports betting thing. There's a couple of minor updates from the S79 2 years ago, just like the number of states that have done it since, just updated it. And then, so we're waiting for Tucker, he's not available here.
He's currently double booked, but I'm not sure which room he's in.
I'm gonna quickly do this,
Thank you.
and then my part will be ready for those guys to change, and then you'll be ready.
We'll
So,
be ready, yeah.
I just want to talk about one thing that I mentioned in my email to you.
Oh, does that include David?
No,
The act-
this is something that we can easily change if we want to do it. It's just, I got approached by the chair of the agriculture committee about some of his constituents getting benefits, and I said, you know, I've been hearing that agriculture as a sector has also been fairly hard hit in this pandemic. And we've got a list of 3 or 4 groups that it's just enabling legislation in a deed loan program and in a capital investment that says the agency may give priority to these sectors. And I said, maybe we could add agriculture to that. And then due diligence, I wrote Joan, I said, can we do that? I would say her answer to me was sort of similar to what you said in everything. She's just adding to things that we're just controlled by the feds anyhow. So to the extent it's not allowed by the feds, it's just gonna send wrong message. And I don't know that it's not allowed by the feds. And I
She can't
asked-
tell you whether it is or it's not.
She didn't. I mean, she basically, she said, several items are listed, the ones we listed are in the guidance. That to the extent you didn't say whether it was prohibited, it's definitely not listed per se. But, so I wrote back there, I said, so we couldn't use any of this money for a separate program for agriculture if we wanted? Or we couldn't do a separate program like the arts and culture bill that says parks, but we couldn't do that because it's just. So I'm inclined to do this for Senator, he was saying, asking about it. I don't think it does any harm. He could obviously do it himself with appropriations, but he said he'd rather we do it.
So you could always put a next paragraph that's less prohibited
That's
by
already,
other,
it's already,
that would
it
exclude
just
it.
says you can't do anything contrary.
So I think that's, should deal with it, I'm saying.
This is through Vita?
Huh?
It would be through Vita.
It's both, it's,
Well, it's both the capital.
It's KIP and
program
Vita.
And the Vita program.
yeah, this
And
camera
it's,
is so,
it's really just a feel-good kind of thing. I mean, it
I
doesn't
guess,
require
yeah.
the agency to do anything. with it.
Right, I just don't know if they have the right expertise in Vita to.
Now, in terms of agriculture, they absolutely
Okay.
do.
Okay.
That's the primary focus is agriculture. Or was initially, well, okay, so we'll put that in. Okay, why don't we just do, I think we can do the sports betting thing ourselves. Just to keep us a little busy, and if we can't, we can go to the break. Let me see if I can, I think I can tell you where it's changed from the bill we passed 2 years ago, 2020. The 28% figure on line 20 is the same. He says that hasn't changed. These are new numbers on
so sorry, what page you on?
page 65, based upon the report he's working on. I think it said something like, it just had the first year numbers and the lower number, it was high, I think it was like 1 to 3 million. Now he's saying 640,000 to 4.8 million the first year. And the second year, he said 1.3 to 10 projection. Then on line 6, he's changed the numbers. It used to be what, like 20 or 12 states back then that did
Yeah, it's now
have.
16.
No, now we have 31.
And that, right, so it's just huge,
Right.
the growth in 2 years. It's
And
amazing.
of those, essentially the only couple of states that hasn't, aren't at least considering it. So there are 14 more states that are considering.
Only 4 going. And then he gave us the examples of those states, and I was totally surprised by them, quite frankly.
Idaho, Michigan.
Idaho, Utah, Alaska, and one other. Anyway, they surprised me.
So even though all this is highlighted, I think this is all, the rest of it is all exactly the same from what the Senate passed. The dates changed, obviously, on page 67.
Which sucks. This,
So combined with Tucker's report, when we ever receive it, and this task force, I would say, and given the, the tidal wave of states that have done this since the Supreme Court decision, I think we could hit the ground running.
yes,
I'm just wondering if we ask in here for the task force to submit proposed legislation as part of its charge. I think we should do that, don't you?
yes. Nothing, let's see. here on page 67 under report, maybe it might be report and recommendations. Something like that. There's submit a written report to everybody. And recommendations for legislative action.
Then you have their standard language for that, so we're just asking to have that.
So we want this stronger, which is not just a recommendation for legislative action, but actual
Draft legislation.
developed draft legislation. You want me to email that to him, because wherever he is. You want me to,
Yeah, well, I think we have to do it right.
one
Is
plus?
that the only, so that's the only
I think that's the
change, right?
only change, because he incorporated all this other stuff.
I think the only change that Amy has,
Just get sentenced.
so you remember we raised the hourly pay to $27.50? He didn't, and I wrote this to you, I don't know if you read my email, I wrote it to an email to all you. I said-
Under wage,
I
this
said,
is
I said,
wage
that-
replacement.
I said, does that affect the cap of $2,000 that you hadn't changed? And I see that you raised that to 2,200. I think that was his.
2,200.
Yeah.
What, I don't know where wage replacement is now. What,
It's on the COVID income.
yeah,
levels.
wage replacement is what page?
It's-
I can't remember if it's before or after. Index,
Right. It's on page, it starts on page 42. Where the change takes place. When it comes out of the print,
Here we
it
are.
doesn't have the yellow, it just has the dark green.
well, we have money beginning on page 44.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's page 44 and then. And then 40, yeah, 44, I don't see, the study of
Oh, here it
paid
is on
family
page,
leave.
on page 50. Three
Oh, there it is,
changes.
tiny little shadowing.
Let me just look at my email to see if there's any other change.
Okay, I'm emailing Tucker.
I think it's totally wrong.
You plug it in.
This- Right. David Malone and ask him to add the agricultural sector to the VITA CIP programs as priority sectors with the marks, et cetera. Look at two sections.
Oh, glad that's up.
Well, I just didn't want to disrupt what you guys were doing. I had a question about another part of the bill.
We are pay, while we're in that section, right following it is the PFML us, the task force, which we came into agreement and alignment on yesterday with the advocates. And we have what am I doing? Tucker, where did that thing go?
So when we have a minute, can we go back to section 5?
Yes, I'm totally open to discussion right now, so
What's that, Michael?
I'm totally open to discussion now, I'm just trying to find my emails. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering, and I apologize, I know like my schedule this week's been crazy. I didn't realize that we had dropped the amount on the forgivable loans from 250 to 150, and I just wanted to understand how we landed there. I would love it to be higher, so I'm just trying to understand, did we take testimony from?
One of the reasons we did that was because we had no testimony as to why the program should change in that respect. That, the existing program was $150,000. And there's never any complaint. You recall the complaints about the program dealt with the fact that there was had to be tax loss thing when you put in, people couldn't apply, but no one ever said, and they've gotten just $4 million out under the existing cap. So they have, I'm open to hearing more from the House, but at this point, we have no justification to raise that. The other thing that I feel strongly about is that this program has, started out as, if you recall, a gap filling program for people who didn't get any other assistance. And they said that there was a lot of need there. Turns out didn't have any need, so they said, okay, we'll use the money to give more money to business. We have given probably more money in economic aid than any state in the country by far. We have reports from the auditor, Tom Cadet, saying that there's some question about how this on federal level as well as our, as to whether it was targeted properly or whether it was really done. So without any testimony, without any complaint that it should be a higher number. I'm not willing to go there now, but maybe they take testimony in the House and they make that case open here.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like what I'm hearing from my district is that it's just making sure that, particularly with the hospitality industry, I mean, they're just not out of the woods yet. I mean, it's a different situation. So many other industries come on, and so I just want to make sure we're really sensitive to the fact that it's not as if that. I was just looking at an article yesterday about the Fed increasing its interest rates, and one of the things that everybody anticipated was that people would stop, purchasing more durable goods as they shifted back to restaurants and traveling and tourism, and that shift hasn't happened. So it's not as if the business has come back in the way that people anticipated. And so that's how I'm approaching this morning, is that I feel like that industry is in a really different situation than in some of our other sectors. So I understand we're under the gun here, but again, I apologize. I'm in and out, and I didn't realize that it had shifted. If you're open to them taking more testimony, I mean, obviously you can't control what happens in commerce, but I just want to make sure we're getting it right, because it hasn't come back yet.
Yeah, I am very open to hearing more about what they say in the House, because this is really, in my mind, it's a lot of ways an ill-defined program, and the need is ill-defined. And I think that we had a lot of pressure early on, get money out the door, and just made it an open program to get a lot of money. There's advantages to that. There were disadvantages in non-targeting. And So more information that could come, I think I have definitely. So, okay, I got my email. Yeah, so I think everything, we're waiting for changes from David. We'll put in the agricultural piece. And I think we're gonna get a change from Tucker to add that.
He said he should be here 5-6 minutes, hopefully.
May I just add something, Becca?
Sure.
I think where we began with this conversation, there were recommendations from the department to move all of the remaining economic recovery money into, well, at least significant, not
Yeah.
like half of it, into the capital
Yep.
investment program.
Yeah.
So this is really trying to clarify that 20 million of that is going to go into recovery
Absolutely.
for all these priority sectors. And I know it's not fully what they want, but in some cases, we know that if their money and their need is aligned, that the forgivable loan will be almost instant. So I really feel that, and I think these sectors it's now, their need is so great and their need is very individualized. I mean, it is maybe within a sector like the creative sector, or the hospitality, but that there are some very individualized needs that need to be addressed. And I think the plus is that VITA has the staff and the expertise to deal with that individual need. So I actually think, I know a lot of the people who are hardest hit right now aren't necessarily feeling that, but I really want people to know that we're going into this thinking we're getting better advice and counsel and help for them than they would if it was just a straight grant program through an agency whose business isn't to help, figure out thorny financial things with individual clients. So I actually think this is fair. I think that they're going to get actually better service and attention as they go through this tougher sort of period, as they try and work their way out. So I think they're going to be surprised by the amount of attention Cassie's department.
Oh, I have no issue with it going to VITA. I
Yeah,
think,
no, but
with
20
all the
million is-
testimony we've heard, I think that they are.
So-
I just want to make sure that we are not underestimating the need. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Because the recovery in that industry hasn't come back yet.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying to say.
absolutely.
Um,
So I think though that 20 million, I guess what I began by saying is 20 million is more than where we started with. When
Agreed.
they were looking at the 26 million plot, we're thinking, oh, they're only gonna need 15 or they're 10. We have made this a top priority with 20.
No, I understand.
On that program, we gave exactly what the government requested.
I mean, I think as we continue the discussion through the end of session, I want to back up what Ben is saying, because the 150,000 in 3 months, 3 months even is limiting in this way that we looked at seasonality, and now we're looking at 2 years of this pandemic experience. Like, nothing has been confined to 3 months. There are a lot of these arts and culture and events are going back into their busy season where they're going to have to devote somebody's time to this process, which probably has more scrutiny because it has more federal attachment to it, where they still have to make a trade-off. Not everybody's going to even get 150,000, so that's kind of or 3 months. So it kind of limits and constrains what they're, able to ask or advocate for when these are lengthy processes that someone is going to have to go through to get some kind of return. And so they're going to have to weigh, is this helping me as much as I need as I go into my busy season and think about going through this process and making sure I got all my I's and have my bookkeeper look at the, forgivable loan piece of it.
I think this may be less onerous than the ACCD process, actually. I think they're gonna find this is very user friendly. That's what Cassie has testified to.
Cassie's a pro at it.
Yeah, no question. I think for me, it's more about the the amount and
The
the
amount,
timeline.
so
And
So
so,
150 to 2
They
million.
get one bite at the apple again this year and, you know, are just trying to get out of the woods, just trying to hire people back.
Well, actually, some of these companies, I believe, will have 2 avenues for recovery. I mean, that they will have the short-term forgivable loans, and they also, where it's appropriate, have investments in the future that help them recover, which are the capital investment. So a lot of our childcare centers have already applied, a lot of the arts, and now that we're scaling it to a lowercase t, I think the door is wider for smaller organizations to be applying for the capital investment program. So I'm actually feeling okay that we, between those two, will meet needs. And that we're never gonna make everybody fully whole, as we know. But we're doing our best.
I mean, let's say it's a, you know, it's a smaller operation and, you know, let's say 150,000 is quite a bit, but they're getting the lesser of 150,000 or 3 months. Would it hurt us to make it 6 months for now so that we're not just, what if the lesser of 150 or 3 months is that 3-month constraint?
It was,
This is what the program is now.
Right,
The program is still going right now. So, and these are the limits that the administration suggested. We accepted them totally last year.
I just wonder if we could consider 6 months, just because 3 months feels arbitrary, looking back at 2 years.
6 months is arbitrary too. I don't know where they came up with the 3 months, but they came up with the 3 months, so we haven't taken any testimony. I really don't feel like we should be changing things 5 minutes before we're gonna vote. And especially as we can look at further in conference, it's not gonna be a hard, fast rule that we stay with this amount. It's a placeholder in essence. I mean, people have raised the issue, but we haven't had testimony one way or another. In fact, the administration, you know, we changed a lot last year to tighten the program to make it more targeted. But this was not one area we changed what they gave us. They said 150,000 for 3 months, and it was supposed to be mostly for people who have not gotten any assistance in the past. And it transitioned over to giving more money to people who already got assistance.
so you just used a word that made me ask a question, because people have asked me this. Conference. So my assumption,
you're right there.
if I don't know what's happening here. My assumption had been that given this is a strike all and it's a huge amount of new material, that this would go to House Commerce and be some pieces farmed out to maybe House General, but that this would be considered by them as basically as an S bill, and that they would work on it, not that we would go straight into the conference.
No, I agree.
Yeah, that's my assumption, and that's what I've been telling people, is that this will be fully reviewed in the House, and then we'll probably get something back, and then we may go to conference. But I think the process, it will be full review in the House and opportunity for work in the House. Because they're gonna send us some bills that need to be aligned with this. They have a huge creative sector bill that
You're okay.
no, it's very interesting. I'm having these stabbing pains in my left side. I don't think I'm having a heart attack because it's too low.
You want to get up and walk.
I don't know if that will help. I think just sitting here having coffee.
It will help me.
It'll help me. Oh, yeah, because you don't look at me. Okay, I'll go take a walk. Now, I emailed Tucker. Let me just see if I got a response from Tucker. Anyway,
He just emailed under draft.
Could you print out that's just that section?
is it just that section?
He sent all 69 pages.
Updated draft 7.2 of the amendment.
While we're pulling that, I mean, I just wonder, you know, if it's, I don't think it would change the overall intention of this to go to 6 months instead of 3 months. I mean, that would just make me feel better. We're not changing even the overall amount of money, but that the lesser might be a longer period of time where a person could claim losses. I mean, we just know nothing has been limited to 3 months, and if this was the language last year, there was still all this hope that things were improving. So it doesn't feel like it changes right now, you know, the pie in any way, to just at least offer particularly smaller operations the chance to advocate for up to 6 months of loss.
Just don't know the impact. We could say a year, we could say 2 months, I just don't know, you know. I don't know which one is gonna come into effect, 150,000 or the lesser of 3 months or 6 months.
It's the 11th hour. I would say, let's leave that to the House.
Go ahead. So we're trying to
Tucker,
see if we can do a dance here and get this bill voted out.
I'm trying to find your language here, Tucker. I know you
10
did.
minutes, have a seat. The only language change I think we asked of your review section. It's just we wanted a sentence to say that they should come back with draft proposed legislation.
All right, good morning. You should have draft 7.2 in front of you. If you go to, I believe it is section 17, it is on page 67, subsection E. Subsection E is the mandate for the report that's going to be submitted by the study committee. And in the last sentence, where it requires that the committee submit a report with its findings, recommendations for legislative action, we have added and a draft of proposed legislation.
Where are you, what page and line?
Page 67, line 16. It was highlighted in fluorescent green on my computer.
It's the one right that he just sent us.
Okay.
And it's on the screen, so it's on.
Sounds good. Yes,
Mike, could we take, just a sec for us to just go and, could we take a break for 1 minute?
I really need to get this bill out. Unless,
I actually think we should just have a moment. If we can. We're on the floor in 7 minutes, is that right?
Right.
So if the pro temp could talk with the chair and vice chair in my office for 2 minutes, that would be great.